Welcome to the Rep Expert Conference blog. Ahead of the Rep Expert Academy Conference taking place on 22nd of May, I'm going to be speaking to some of those who will be presenting at the event to get their take on the current aftermarket trends. My first guest is the garage inspector himself, Andy Savva. With over 35 years in the automotive industry, Andy has been on the front line, owning two successful businesses, and today can be seen imparting his knowledge to other garage owners to help them succeed in the future. Andy is a passionate speaker and very keen to talk about the aftermarket, and I'm delighted to welcome him now. Andy, thanks so much for being here.
Pleasure. It's been a long time since we've had the last a good chat, me and you.
Indeed it is. And actually, on the subject of good chats, my first question really, why should technicians and garage owners be attending the Rep Expert Conference this year?
I think there's lots of reasons. I think what they should be asking themselves is, why shouldn't I be attending? I mean, I can't remember the last time when a manufacturer, a tier one global parts manufacturer, actually put on a conference. Many of these conferences are by other organizations, and obviously a lot of tier one parts manufacturers will attend. So it's exciting because I think it's the first one that they've done. So it's manufacturer led. So you're really going to be able to drill down with technology, techniques, training, and also what's also nice is that they've invited, garage folk, us, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So it'll be a great networking day. You'll meet fellow garage owners who are probably suffering the same issues that, we all are across the country. But the main thing for me is it's hosted by tier one global quality parts manufacturer. We're all going to learn something, whether it's current technologies, new technologies. And I think it's going to be a very, very popular conference. And it's just a spin-off, or it's an extension really of what Schaeffler Rep Expert have been doing in the last 2 or 3 years, which is smaller Academy Live, conferences for 30, 40, 50, 60 people. So this is like an expansion of that. So yeah, it should be good. Should be a good day. Should be a great day actually.
And just on that, I mean, you mentioned about the issues garages are facing. We're seeing a very different automotive landscape to what we had even a few years ago now.
Yeah.
What are the current problems that the businesses are looking at, and how could they overcome them?
So I obviously visit garages every day. I've got lots of data that I collect. I believe that I've got the truest data out of most organizations. Why? Because I really drill down, and I've got a whole host of garages from one-man bands to multi-sites across. And there's two things that really stand out that are the most common themes. The first is personnel, right? I think every garage owner you'll speak to is finding it incredibly challenging to recruit, and in some cases even to retain. It has become a problem. Now, I don't want to spend too much on this time because we'll never finish the call. I have written and commented on this subject for years. We have contributed to the situation that we're in now, not being able to attract and retain. And the second big thing that I see as a challenge is people want to expand because they're so busy with work. I mean, when I think about pre-COVID, Phil, and I think COVID had a huge impact on, yes, it was terrible for the society, but it also had some positives in terms of our repair industry. And that's what I think accelerated the repair sector in where we are now. I've never known a time where most garages their lead times are, 3 weeks is like the norm. And also people are not actually taking new customers on because they can't maintain their ones. And that's caused them an additional problem. One is obviously staff, but the second one, they can't expand. You can't expand because of personnel, but also you can't just go and buy land. You can't just, you need ramps, you need car park, you need space. So the physical side of expansion has made it very difficult. Finding premises has become, very, very difficult. And also local authorities don't want garages in their towns. They want them out because they still think that the greasy sort of Joes underneath the arches. And then when they do find a suitable premises, an industrial unit or something like that, the moment you say you want to use it for a garage, the landlord don't want to entertain you. So there are huge challenges for us. Personnel being one, and the limitations that you have in expanding the services and products that you want to offer. So it's really challenging for them.
And I guess as well, we've got new technologies coming in, electric vehicles, ADAS, for example,
Yeah,
just two of the big ones. So,
yeah.
and what should garages and garage owners and technicians be doing to counter the wave of new technologies that are out there?
Now I've got I'm going to be very careful what I say now, because I've got a very, very different view to the majority on the EV vehicles. So I'm going to leave that for a minute, because if I start on that, we definitely won't finish this call right before it gets dark. So I think as an independent sector, I think technology has always been a challenge for us. And we've always managed to adapt and tap in, and we always resolve, right? And that's the uniqueness of independent garages. We are very resilient. Now, when I think back, when I was working on cars, carburetors and spark plugs, points and condensers, you'd get a customer come in, you'd service their car, they'll drive it, and they'll notice a huge difference. But even then, when we went to electronic ignition and K injection and then K injection, and then direct injection, and then you think, wow, how are we going to 25 years ago, 30, how are we going to keep up with technology? We just do it. We adapt and we do it. When I think back 20, 25 years ago, what help did we have as garages? What resource could we tap into? Not a lot. It was us and our toolbox and what we thought was right. If you think about like the Rep Expert Schaeffler event, that's a perfect example for you how they can overcome these challenges by attending these events, by networking. And now, when you ring up the wonderful people at Euro Car Parts or the AAG Group or GSF for that matter now, who've come back in, with a big force, they're not only selling you parts, they're selling you training packages, they're selling you equipment, they're selling you ramps. So we're able to actually tap in to as much knowledge as a manufacturer, a retailer. And we will always be able to adapt. And there'll be some that won't adapt, but that's in every industry field. So I don't see that as a huge thing. I think we've always been able to adapt. And I think now there's so much resource available to us. There is no excuse for you to be held behind because technology moves. Technology will always move. I think what's important is to understand what's in your marketplace before you jump, because there's a lot of noise about a specific technology that's come out. And that's a huge problem that I see every day in garages.
I just want to ask, you mentioned COVID-19
Yep.
and it's had an impact on the aftermarket in a more positive way.
Yeah.
We're seeing the UK's car park continue to age, and people are holding on to their cars for longer, cost of
Yeah.
living impact as well
Yeah.
with that. So is this a good opportunity really for garages to take advantage of the older car park and therefore also increase their skill sets?
So that's a very good question. I'm going to take you back to 2010, 2009, when I opened my last business, Brunswick Garage. I said then, we went through the biggest recession that we ever saw at that time in our lifetime. And there was never a better time to open a garage than in 2009, 2010, for the exacting reasons of what you've just said. The vehicle park is getting older. People are keeping their cars. Yes, we had a period in COVID where used car sales went through the roof because people realized the convenience of having their own car. So and because we couldn't use transports around the UK, so dealers couldn't sell enough cars, and that obviously had an impact for us because we had more repairs. I did a course this week in Nottingham. I was running my finance and my marketing course, and this year I've begun by saying, do you know what? Today, there's never been a better time to be a garage owner. Absolutely, 100%. I've never seen it so good than now. The key thing is to how we tap into this newfound work and make sure that we have the correct resource to facilitate this new demand. Obviously, we said at the beginning that's challenging because we need personnel, and we might need bigger premises. But I'd rather have that problem than no cars coming in at all, or having lead times of 2 or 3 days. So yes, 100%. If I was a bit younger, I think I'd be a garage owner again, 100%.
Well, we'll speak to your younger self then for the moment. Does the industry, or how can the industry do more to appeal to the younger generation, especially when we look at the approaches of other technology firms and the automotive market moving into a technology era? What can garages do to bring those younger minds into the business?
I think this is a huge question. I could spend quite a bit of time on this. I'll try and keep it as short and as simple as possible. When you think about us as a sector, have we really moved on drastically in the last 50, 60 years? Personally, no. Some of us have moved on more than others, but that's the same in many industries. But as a service sector, have we moved on? We've got about 60, 70 different soft associations associated with the motor trade. 99.9% of them are a total waste of time. We're not recognized as a profession. So what have we done to help that? Absolutely nothing. You'll sit down and watch Coronation Street or EastEnders, and they've still got a mock-up of a garage that looks like you've gone back to the 1960s. But can you blame them when a director says, oh, we need a theme of a garage. Let's go down the high street and see what we find. So they go to their local high street and they take some mock-ups and they just replicate what they see down the road, which is what we see. We're a very flat organization. Is there promotion and demotion? What are you going to go from front of house to the workshop, or the workshop back to front of house? Salaries. We're one of the lowest paid service sector industries that I know. We're still paying people or offering people 13, 14, 15 pounds an hour, and we expect to recruit and retain. I can't get a cleaner to come and clean my house at 15 pounds an hour in London. And you think to yourself, what have we done? What kind of facilities do we have to offer them? So I say to my garage folk that I train, what's our proposition? What's the proposition that you've got to convince people that the motor trade is a good place to be? And you know what? It is a good place to be, Phil, right? I've met some wonderful people that have spent 25, 30 years in it. But unfortunately, we are against the white collar jobs. We are against the theory that you have to go to university to succeed, right? No, you don't have to go to university. And unfortunately, like us, like the hospitality business, the skilled jobs that need hands have been neglected, but not now, for the last 25, 30 years. When Labour were in government, you have to go to university. So we missed out on that whole group of 7, 8 years of people going to university to get white collar jobs. And I think as an industry, we collectively have to take responsibility, and we have to change our offering. One of the things that I say is that in order to make it a viable career is that we need to be somehow licensed, where a lot may close, but I don't want licensing that's got just a tick box because it's easy. It needs to have meat on the bone so that we can charge that, so we can raise our profile, we can raise our prices, because our prices have been low for years, Phil. And the problem you have, if your revenue prices are very low, then you can't attract the right kind of people. I'll give you one example. There was a young lad, when I sold Brunswick 7 years ago now, 8 years ago, there was a young lad, two lads actually, who left the garage 6, 7 months later, and they went and worked for Siemens on the trains. Now they got a third more in their salaries, and every other week they're on a training course. So why would you want to stay, why would you want to stay in the garage? So I think we have to look at ourselves in the mirror, and you have to decide what your proposition is. And the game's changed from 10, 15 years ago. We have to up our game, and we have to go out and be proactive.
Exactly that. And I think my other question is, should business owners be looking to the future? Obviously, they have to look at the day to day, but should they be thinking about the future of their business as well? And what can they do to future proof?
You should be doing that as a matter of good business practice anyway, right? The only negative I'll say about, future proofing, I'm not sure whether that's the right word, because I don't think you can future proof anything. Our world is very dynamic and it changes overnight. Think about overnight, the government introduced no MOT testing for 6 months during COVID, right? How can you future proof about something like that? So there's political and economic decisions that get made, which are out of our hands, right? I think for me, more important, the biggest advice I can give to a garage owner is make sure you understand what's going on around your local authority, right? Because there's decisions that are also made at local level that can affect you. There's no excuse for us to not be able to tap in to all this new technology, training, tooling, and equipment that's available to us. And the Rep Expert conference is a perfect example of that. We've got a tier 1 manufacturer here opening their doors to us, inviting us for free. It doesn't cost anyone anything, just time. So you want to future proof your business in terms of what may be happening in the next year or two. That's the kind of place you want to attend.
And just finally as well, I suppose having conferences and events like the Rep Expert conference is a benefit, not just from the learning side of things, because you'll get a lot out of that there, but also the networking, the social side as well, being able to speak to other businesses, other technicians, just to see what they're doing and how they're faring today.
100%. And I think that's a crucial ingredient of these kind of events. And it's like the training that I do, the events that I do, the person-to-person training. What gives it an edge is, I'm not alone. They're suffering the same thing. What have you done? What can you suggest? And that's the beauty about these events. So we're going to have 200, 250 people at the Rep Expert conference. These are like-minded people too, because they've made the effort, to leave their businesses for the day or half a day. Sometimes they may even bring staff members. And yes, the networking side of it. And do you know what? It's about having a bit of fun too, Phil. It's about letting our hair down and having a drink, having a bite, and being part of this community that 10 years ago never existed, Phil. When I ran garages, and many of us at my age, senior age, that have run garages for 15, 20 years, we had none of this going on. So I encourage everyone, and other events around the country. There's some really fantastic things that are going on in our industry at the moment. And I welcome more people to turn up, but also bring your team members. I think it's bringing team members to motivate them, to retain them, to encourage them to stay in our industry. I think is also very, very important.
Andy, thanks for that. Some really, really great points, and I look forward to hearing more from you at the Rep Expert
Yeah.
conference.
Thank you very much, and it's always a pleasure to speak to you. And hopefully, we can have more talks like this in the coming weeks and months. Yeah.
I look forward to it. And if you want to find out more about the Rep Expert conference, then simply visit www.repexpert.co.uk and click on the events tab. Or you can register for tickets directly by scanning the QR code at the top of this screen. And don't forget to stay tuned for more conference vlogs where I'll be speaking to attendees and presenters to get their take on the aftermarket going forwards.